were so many horses in the cities, and it was like it's just like terrible, with that much pollution. And so the internal combustion engine, the car was like a great improvement, over horses, just like you could
Yeah.
get further in case of mobility, but also pollution. You had cleaner streets, but of course the downstream effects, or like the second order effects, and you get, like, I don't know, wars in the Middle East because of oil, or let's say the acceleration of climate change or something. That's another example.
Hello, welcome back to Mtambo's This podcast. My name is Jakub Mtambo, and the following is a conversation with Jakub Simek, a co-founder of Existential and an author of Wisdom Enterprising. In today's episode, I'll be talking with Jakub Simek about his article, Purpose of Tech is Longevity, under the daily Balajisms series. And now, dear friends, here is Jakub Simek. Jakub, I'm glad to see you back at Mtambo's This podcast.
Hi, Jug. I'm happy to be back here talking to you.
Well, let's dive into this. Balaji Srinivasan argues that the approximate purpose of the technology is to reduce scarcity, but the ultimate purpose of technology is to end mortality. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very well put, and it's it's quite a deep point. Just like technology helps us to do more with less, so, and it also like helps us to find synergies and like to move the Pareto-frontier without like resuming to trade-offs, which sounds maybe complicated, but like just to give an example of moving the Pareto-frontier, so you can, thanks to new technology, so you can have like Tesla cars that are cheaper than Volkswagen, but they are faster than Porsche and more and safer than Volvo, so you could have like, let's say, Tesla Model 3 that is cheaper than, let's say, some models of Volkswagen, and it's actually getting progressively cheaper, and Tesla is making profit on those cars. It's like a bit different from the other automakers. Like many of them make EVs, electric vehicles, just to kind of just for some regulatory purposes. So like they, let's say, Mazda makes some kind of like EV, which is actually not that competitive, but they do it because they want to kind of reduce the emission of their whole fleet. So they do these kind of EVs just like an afterthought, like just like to, I don't know, like just for some kind of regulatory purposes. So their fleet is like the total fleet is like has less emissions, So, but like Tesla, their core business is it's electric vehicles. So they have to be like super focused on it, and they have to be super innovative. And now they're like slashing prices, so and they're still being profitable, and they're competing with new rivals like BYD from China, another company, maybe only two companies that are profitable in this space, like electric vehicles, but it's their core business. And BYD is also producing their own batteries, so they're like very vertically integrated. And so this is like an example of like where technology can actually create new synergies and can move the Pareto-frontier, meaning like you don't need to make the trade-off, let's say, between safety and price, or a trade-off between how fast the car is and, let's say, safety or price. But you can actually have a car that is like faster, cheaper, and and safer. And that's basically just an illustration what technology can do. So the technology is doing things faster. We can do things faster, cheaper, and better thanks to technology. So that's the idea of reducing scarcity. And another metaphor, not just metaphor, but actually another example, which is a literal reduction of scarcity, in this case food scarcity, thanks to technology, was the Green Revolution and the Haber-Bosch process underlying that revolution. So thanks to these, like billions more people can be fed on Earth, and the Green Revolution like saved many lives, and also like we could have larger populations thanks to it. So it's like a real literal reduction of scarcity, thanks to better agriculture and better technology, like fertilizers. So that's like some examples there.
That's very
Tesla
interesting.
and Green Revolution.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting perspective. You also mentioned about Haber-Bosch process as an example of how technology can reduce scarcity. Maybe can you elaborate more on that so that I can have a good idea?
Okay, yeah. So that's so like that's basically like how you could make like the invention of fertilizers. Like I'm not a chemist here, but like it's just like
it's like a synthesizing ammonia from nitrogen gas and hydrogen gas.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. So and it has some other, like, let's say, also some negative like effects on the environment. That's true, and that's like maybe also in that article, like at the bottom, I also kind of like have another thing that what Balaji says, or another Balajism, and it's like the technology is like the beer in the Homer Simpson, the Simpsons, like the cartoon. It's like the technology is both the problem or the solution. I mean, it's like both, the problem and the solution. It's both the cure and so the technology creates all our problems, but it also solves our problems.
Just a good example. A good example could be the antivirus business model. The guy who created the virus and then came up with the antivirus.
Yeah, exactly. I guess there are many examples like that, but I mean, with there is this nitrogen runoff, like in, let's say, and like some pollution, let's say, in the oceans and stuff. So that's like one example. Another one could be like with the internal combustion engine. So you have like basically you had the pollution by horse manure, like there were so many horses in the cities, and it was like it's just like terrible, like with that much pollution. And so the internal combustion engine, the car was like a great improvement, over horses, like just like you could get further in case of mobility, but also pollution, you had cleaner streets, but of course the downstream effects, or like the second order effects, and you get, like, I don't know, wars in the Middle East because of oil, or let's say the acceleration of climate change or something. That's another example. But then you have the example that we already just discussed, Tesla and the electric vehicles that are like, again, like improvement over these IC cars, like internal combustion engine cars. Because of not just because of what we discussed, but also they have like 100 times less parts, because it's just like less complicated. And also the founder of BYD said something like, we might not be able to do analog watches, but the digital watches are just easier to produce. So it's like something like, like they just want to be the best in electric vehicles. And actually, they're after, I don't know, many years, like 15 years or more, but they're actually growing quite a lot at BYD. So that's like Yeah, that's another example. So, okay, technology creates lots of problems, but it also solves lots of problems, and it's kind of, yeah, it's the cure. Yeah. I mean, it's the, yeah, sorry. So the Homer Simpson. So the technology is the cause and the solution to all of life's problems. So that's basically maybe the good saying there.
Okay.
That's what Balaji says. Yeah.
That's amazing. I can definitely see how technology has the potential to make us a huge impact on the to make a huge impact on people's life. And as Balaji mentioned, tech founders are more likely to have a positive sum mentality, which is crucial in advancing technology to the next level. But absolutely, the tech founders have the drive and determination to make things happen. They have the ability to see beyond the current limitation and work towards creating solutions that can improve people's life. They are not afraid to take risks and try new things. But I think also to note that technology continues to advance, it has the potential to reduce existential risk and improve the overall sustainability of our planet. What do you think about that also?
Yeah, so yeah, just to quickly maybe discuss this your first part, which was like the positive sum versus the positive sum mentality of tech founders and engineers. It's like due to technology, because they saw they could create like companies out of nothing. Let's say like Facebook out of a dorm room, Amazon out of like a humble office. And they saw like how the proverbial pie can grow, so it's like you don't need to just like fight over like who will get the biggest share of like some kind of pie or some shrinking pie or something, like when the economy is actually stagnant or even like suffers some kind of like stagnation or stagflation, or like, or even like there is economic downturn and people get ugly, they start fighting over the scraps and crumbs and breadcrumbs, but with technology you can grow the pie, and you can have like much more positive sum mentality. It's not like, let's say, let's say the old establishment, they're like just basically playing various like kind of status games, and it's like when you are like, let's say you want to be the most popular on Twitter or the most popular celebrity, it's like zero sum, because like the all attention is only on one celebrity or a couple of celebrities during, let's say, that day or during some kind of like event or something like that. So it's very like zero sum, and actually often it can even get like a negative sum. It's like that's like kind of the distinction between like good, evil, stupid, and smart, like what Balaji uses. So it's like the good and evil are actually zero sum. So it's like a good is kind of like the good person tries to benefit someone else and doesn't want anything in return, so let's say he gives something to someone but it doesn't want anything in return. So it's like a kind of zero sum, and the evil person is also like zero sum, but in reverse. So they want to harm someone and benefit themselves. So it's like a reverse, but it's like zero sum because like they're taking something from someone else. Yeah, and then like you can be like the smart is like let's say like some investment or something like that. So you are like positive sum in a way that you are it's something like we discussed before, that the true charity is investment. So let's say you invest into someone, but if that founder succeeds, then he becomes like even richer than you, but you also become richer. So it's like the positive sum, it's like the example with Peter Thiel and Mark Zuckerberg. So he was the first investor into Facebook, and he got richer, Peter Thiel, but Mark Zuckerberg got much richer than Peter Thiel, so it's like the example of like smart, and then you get stupid, which is like a negative sum, which is something like you harm others and you harm also yourself. It's like really stupid behavior. And
maybe just like SBF.
Yeah,
I mean,
something like
SBF.
that. Yeah, something like SBF, or let's say like some corporate journalists at the beginning of COVID-19 pandemics, like they were like making fun of or just trying to kind of signal that they are against Trump at the very early, like, and at the onset of pandemics. And they were like, just taking it very lightly, like they were then writing something, it's just a flu. So that Balaji uses this example like of the stupid behavior where you are harming others, you are harming public in a kind of measurable way, I guess, also, but you are also like harming yourself because it's like you can't escape COVID or something. So if you are underestimating it, especially at the very beginning of the pandemics, it's like, yeah, it's stupid on many levels. So like, but getting back to our topic. So yeah, so that's about the scarcity and about the positive sum mentality of tech founders. Usually, it's also like people where there is not enough, let's say, coders, programmers, engineers, and so they don't need to compete with each other like for yeah, I mean, generally, it's like not something like you want to become like a top celebrity, or like, let's say, so many people want to become like the top musician or the top performer. Let's say it's very competitive, like some areas, and these kind of areas are then prone to become like more like wokified, like they're attracting other types of people. So like, but that was just like, yeah, like one discussion about like engineers being okay, it's not like black and white, it's like of course there might be like loads of competitive people and stuff, but like on in general, like you get more kind of like positive sum, altruistic kind of friendly behavior, like from people that are that are not in these kind of like super competitive sectors, or that have the experience that the pie can grow, the proverbial pie can grow, and they can create like big companies out of nothing. They just don't need to fight over status or over some old establishment organizations and institutions. But maybe just to get back to the point of the article is basically, yeah, the scarcity. Technology reduces scarcity, but the ultimate scarcity is time, because you have only, so that's like what creates scarcity, it's time. So if you can create technology that expands the healthy lifespans, it's also said like health span. So if you can invest and create like technology that actually advances longevity, so the health span and the lifespan of people, then actually that's like kind of the ultimate reduction of scarcity. Because let's say yeah, you value time because the time is limited, you value let's say you value fast cars, or you value private jets and these kind of things, because you want to get fast from a point from A to B, or you want to yeah, I don't know, it's just like, because time is limited, and so it's like yeah, many things are scarce because of that. But if you can reduce this ultimate scarcity of time by actually expanding human lifespans, and especially human health spans, so the number of healthy years lived on our planet, then you can Yeah, you can advance the humanity in a fundamental way, because also you get like less infighting between people, because they now live longer and healthier lives. And maybe just back to your last part of your question, it's about like this, let's say, space travel, space tourism, or like let's say SpaceX has this mission to colonize Mars, so
Yeah.
and it's also kind of another example of technology that is reducing the risk, the existential risk, let's say, of us going extinct because of some stupid mistake we do. I don't know, some, let's say, nuclear winter or another scenarios like this. So if we are like multiplanetary species, like the risk of humanity going extinct is lower, with us being multiplanetary species. But actually, to become multiplanetary species, we need longevity
Yeah.
as well, or at least we need like a longer lifespans, because let's say to reach some other planets, it's like it takes a long time. So it's like it's another angle into. And maybe just like lastly, maybe just to like kind of take this Balajism, this Balaji's idea of the ultimate purpose of technology is life extension. So just to kind of generalize it or play with it a bit longer, then we could also kind of say, together with like Alexander Bard, who you had on the podcast, he has this concept of ecotopia. So it's like ecological utopia, something like that. So ecotopia. Or Forrest Landry is another kind of interesting thinker, and he basically has this concept that technology should advance biodiversity. So it's like we should kind of close the loop. So like the humanity shouldn't have technology only advancing humanity at the expense of let's say the nature and the biodiversity. But if you generalize life into not just human life, but let's say other life, like let's say other animals, like let's say some conservation efforts of to conserve the nature and the animals, then you could use like technology to advance biodiversity. Like a very concrete example could be, let's say, some drones that are planting trees faster than humans, so you could plant trees like using drones. So it's like repurposing technology, actually, like even like some military technology to plant trees, which is like a nice idea. But it's just like one example, and actually I don't know how this company or this sector is progressing, because it's been a couple of years. And I don't know, maybe they're stuck somewhere, or it's just too early. But okay, like you have another example of just like, let's say, drones monitoring wildlife, just like, let's say, drones being used against poachers. That's like very I guess also like normal, and also kind of Kenyans can relate to it. But like drones planting trees, let's say 60 times faster than humans. And I don't know how this technology is like at the moment. Actually, I should check this out. But like a couple of years ago, it was like there were a couple of companies like focusing on it. It's like one example, but you can have probably more. And these, at least these two examples, are not controversial. Like I'm not talking about like some like controversial topics, or more controversial topics, like I don't know, including some genetic engineering or something of some species. It's also a possibility, like I don't know, reviving, let's say, some species that already went extinct. That's also another example. But like in this article, or like in this kind of, I'm not discussing these topics, so like more, let's say, more sci-fi topics, but that are actually almost possible, or kind of becoming possible very very soon. But if you take just like these two examples, like drones fighting against poachers, like monitoring wildlife, or and especially drones planting trees much faster than humans, then I think it's a good example of like technology also reducing scarcity, but technology promoting and helping biodiversity and life in general on this planet.
Yeah, it's amazing to think about all the ways technology can help improve the world. But at the same time, don't we need also to make sure that we are regulating it in a way that benefits society as a whole?
Yeah, definitely. Like it's like I think that the idea is to be smart regulators. Meaning like Balaji has like a like specific meaning that the smart regulator has like the low false negative rate and also false positive rate. So it's like basically you shouldn't let the bad guys in and the good guys out, in a way, so it's like you should like be like smart and granular and like a good like example, like practical example is something like Uber versus like taxi medallion, so it's like the US kind of the old school analog regulation is like this US like the taxi medallion. It's like some kind of inspection once a year that inspects your taxi, like the taxi drivers. And if you compare it like with a smart regulator, like an Uber that is actually a two-sided marketplace connecting drivers and users and passengers, and actually it provides rating, like a 5-star rating for both the passengers and the drivers, and it's actually assessing measuring and assessing the drivers on a like a second by second basis. It can like kind of figure out like some kind of tricks, let's say, of someone trying to like I don't know, trick the passengers by some kind of I don't know GPS spoofing or something. It's like crazy things, but it can like yeah, I mean it provides like continual kind of feedback, and it provides these ratings, and the passengers are rating the drivers, and the drivers are rating the passengers, and then there is like some, and it provides even the global prices. So it's like also an interesting, like there were some other competitors, like I think it was like Sidecar or something, and Balaji uses the example. And then it also kind of the Uber sets the price for the city, and and they're also operating like in a decentralized way, like they have like they're like city by city, like they're kind of operating in various like they're managing like the city. Yeah, the Uber is like kind of decentralized, like focusing on each city and managing it. And so it's like a good example of a smart regulator that can be also used to technology. So let's say you can have like basically Balaji's explanation is like the competition between regulators, between smart regulators. So you have, let's say, Uber and you have Lyft. So, but imagine you have like many special innovation zones. Let's say you have a special innovation zone for self-driving cars, or for like drones, or for longevity, and you can have like, let's say, 10 special innovation zones for longevity and 10 like smart regulators. And then you can have choice between regulators and competition between regulators, because like if you have just like one global regulator like FDA or EMA in Europe, so it's like just a couple of regulators, and FDA being the strongest one, and they're doing the global harmonization, and it's like this creates the monoculture, and it creates the outdated kind of old regulations that are I don't know, it takes 10 years to approve, and 1 billion or I don't know $2 billion to approve like a new medicine. And while people are waiting for it, let's say with some rare diseases and dying, And and we discussed it before, like with the dollars buyers club. That's the movie basically about very rare movie about how the regulators are evil because they let people die of AIDS and HIV.
And Balaji mentioned people with STEM backgrounds have a duty to advocate for technological progress and help create a parallel tech-driven decentralized media ecosystem. This will not only help advance technology, but also promote a more informed and engaged society, right?
Yes, exactly, because the regulation doesn't drive itself. Doesn't write itself. So says Balaji. So the regulation doesn't write itself. Somebody has to write the regulation. Somebody has to write the legislation. So, and also you have to have like the moral justification for your company and your product, and you have to have your own distribution. So it's like it's like you might not be interested in politics, but politics is interested in you. So you have to, you have to have your own distribution, and you have to constantly evangelize and advocate and record and create your own crypto history. So it's like basically just like know the history of your field, know the failures of the regulators or the journalists or people responsible for that sector, and like what are the failures or the mistakes or the shortcomings, and like dedicate maybe 20% of your time, even if you are like an engineer or if you are just like doing like the subject matter or like just working on or a scientist or something like that, but you should like dedicate maybe 20% of your time for writing content, creating content like videos, articles, and creating your own crypto history of your moral innovation. Let's say if you believe longevity is good or self-improvement is good, you should like invest like maybe 20% of your time into promoting it, because legislation doesn't write itself, regulation doesn't write itself, and so you might not be interested in politics, but politics is interested in you. So you need to have your own strong moral cause and strong moral justification, because this gives you the license to operate.
Yeah, I like that. I think by promoting technological progress and encouraging the development of new solutions, we can make a positive impact on the world and improve the lives of people everywhere. Well, Jakub, it's been a great talking with you today, and this is fascinating on this fascinating topic. Thank you for joining me on Mtambo's This podcast.
Thank you, Duke. It was great talking to you.
Well, that brings us to the end of this episode. If you enjoyed listening to Mtambo's This podcast, don't forget to subscribe, give this episode a thumbs up, and be sure to come back next week for another episode. Until then, this is Duke Mtambo, and don't forget to do good always.